G'day and welcome to Does It Matter? Apparently, the average human being lies about 37 times a day. Now that can include lies of omission, minor forms of deception, white lies, and such, many of which many people consider not to be necessarily lies, but in technical terms they are. The problem with lying is that for every lie you tell other people, there's some level of rationalization to make yourself feel better. There's some level of internal reasoning that's required in order for you to feel better about the lie. And so, as Shakespeare says, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. You're not only weaving a web in the world that you have to justify and keep up with, you're also weaving a tangled web within yourself of rationalizations, assumptions, that you have to tell yourself, stories, narratives that you run within yourself. They're lies too, because even if you believe them, they're still lies. Even if you end up buying your own crap, it's still a lie. And it started with something that you knew wasn't quite right, something that you knew wasn't quite on the ball. You knew there was some level of internal obfuscation there. You knew it, but you did it anyway because you could rationalize it, you could justify it, expediency. And following that path of expediency down has led you to a point where there are consequences down the track for lying that you just simply can't believe. Your mental health will suffer. You'll be on and off head meds in most likely, more likely than not, and you'll struggle with your mental health and your emotional health. Not because your life is necessarily that hard, though it might be, and that would make it worse, but simply because you have deceived yourself and you know it. Internally, we can't really lie to ourselves. We can establish a layer of bullshit that we buy, that we need to believe. That leads nowhere good at all. Don't do it. Just don't. Okay? It will only create internal cognitive dissonance, clash within yourself, conflict within yourself. That cannot survive. You can't stay healthy. You can't be healthy. You can't become healthy without it. Okay? If you want internal health, especially if you're living a tough life, if there are things that are difficult and challenging for you in the external world, the last thing you need is internal conflict. The last thing you need is that, or having to suppress that and bullshit to yourself, which so many people are good at nowadays because we're surrounded by tropes. We're surrounded by excuses. This society gives us hedonistic excuses. Selfishness is excused in so many ways nowadays. We are orientated towards deception. We're orientated towards believing fiction when we know it's fiction. The only way around that is brutal truth-telling to yourself at least. All right? And that's a lot easier to do when you're not bullshitting to other people, when you're not telling the same tales to other people. The only thing I can suggest is to start off by, don't let something that you know is not absolutely true pass your lips. If you're unsure, say you're unsure. If you're not clear on things, say you're not clear on things. Be clear and clarify the length and the degree of your knowledge and the limits of it as well. Don't overclaim, don't exaggerate. Try to avoid anything that goes beyond the truth as you know it. And be open to the fact that even the truth you know may not be true. Okay? That helps. That's a really good start to truth telling and regaining your mental health. I think much of the mental health crisis today, in a whole variety of ways, revolves around people's unwillingness to face the truth of their lives, the truth of all their decisions, and the truth of their accountability as individuals. Life is hard, people are hard, governments are dog shit most of the time, corporates are rapacious piranhas. There's so many good reasons why life is unfair. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to you and your reactions and your decisions. And the way you feel internally doesn't have to be, and your morals and your ethics and the way you conduct yourself doesn't have to have anything to do with the outside world. It doesn't. Don't believe it, because it doesn't. You can be internally derived. Step by step. First First step. Don't exaggerate. Don't bullshit to anyone for the next month. You'll find it surprisingly hard not to tell a lie, not to deceive. Human beings are natural. We invented language to bullshit to each other. There's a lot of anthropological evidence now that shows that we invented it to get a leverage and an advantage, not just to cooperate, but also to seek advantage over one another. So let's stop doing that. Let's use language in its best capacity, to be honest. Oos.